Welcome to A Kid's Life podcast. I'm Angela Lockwood, and for the last 20 years, I have been working in schools, supporting teachers to build inclusive classrooms. Through A Kid's Life podcast, my goal is to help us adults better understand the complexities of life as a kid. My guests and I share stories, reflections, and simple strategies to support kids of all needs as they walk through life. So whether you're looking for inspiration, direction, guidance, tips, or just a laugh, A Kid's Life podcast is the place for you. Enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome to A Kid's Life podcast. I'm Angela Lockwood, and thanks so much for joining me because it is school holidays. For most of you parents, you're either well in the thick of school holidays or you are about to start school holidays. So I thought it would be a great time for us to have a little chat really about what school holidays are all about and how you can use your school holidays so that you can actually get the rest that you need. And if you are working during the school holidays, how you can support your child to have the rest that they need. You know, let's face it, this year's been a really, really big year for so many of us. Actually, let's face it, it's been a big year for all of us, and particularly for our kids. It has been a year of lots of interruptions. It's been a year of a lot of negativity that's come through our media, but it's also been a year where, you know, each year is actually a big year for kids in terms of their growth and transitioning to a new year, learning new things. But for many people this year, it feels like things are slowly moving back to whatever normal looks like. But one thing I've also noticed is that there's a lot of sickness around. I myself have been facing a little bit more sickness actually than what I would like in the last few months. You know, I have had COVID the last couple of months. I've had the flu, head colds, all of that sort of gross stuff. But it's really important when we're seeing this sickness coming into our lives, no matter where you are. It might be winter, it could be coming into summer, but no matter where we are, when we see sickness start to arise in our bodies, it's usually a really good indication that things need to slow down. And a lot of the times for our little kids as well, you know, they get sick too. And it's not just, that's kids, they get sick. But usually when people get sick, it's an indication that their immune system is feeling flat, their immune system is compromised, and often it's a sign that we've maybe been pushing it a little bit too hard. So school holidays is a perfect time for us to stop and take a little bit of a check, really, to see, are we pushing things a little bit too hard? How do I want these school holidays to look for me and my children? And just take the time that is needed. Now, if you're a teacher listening to this, wow, my hat goes off to you. It has been a big year for you too. And school holidays are perfectly designed to allow you to press pause and do those things that bring you joy. Now, how do we make the most out of school holidays? Now, I can't really remember when I was a little kid doing too many things over our school holidays other than, you know, we might have just been relaxing at home, just sort of chilling. We might have been catching up with our friends. You know, we would go on little holidays, we would go camping. And sometimes I can remember those big holidays where, you know, we were going overseas or would go and see relatives. I always had the most fondest memories of my childhood, and school holidays were always times that were full of adventure, full of socializing, going and doing cool things. But there was also moments that I can remember where we weren't doing anything at all, and sometimes they were the most fun. So just take a moment as a parent and think back to what your childhood was like. What were your school holidays like? Was it that you were hanging around with your parents at work? You know, I can remember going to school. My mum was a teacher, but she was a teacher in an adult education setting, and I used to love going to work with her and helping her, you know, do a marking, or maybe this is where I get my organizational love from. I would help her manage her office and clean it up and go and do errands for her. I used to love it. It made me feel really needed, but also it was a really different break. It was a different environment to what I was used to as a kid. And that was going to work with my mum. I can also remember doing some of the same things of going to work with dad as well. And so school holidays will be an individual. You'll remember things that really light you up about your school holidays. And I know I've consciously, as a parent, tried to find that balance between activity and downtime for my kids over school holidays. But, let's face it, sometimes it can feel like school holidays drag on. I know, there's 6-week break holidays, and I know that some schools have even longer breaks. My purpose for having a chat today about school holidays is helping us press pause and really reconnect with what school holidays are about and how you can maximize the downtime of it, but also have those opportunities to just spend time doing things with your kids. Now, whether or not you're working or you have time off, or if you're somebody who needs to balance both, wherever you find yourself, I want, first of all, for you to take the guilt away from needing to be your children's activity directors. I know I find myself sometimes feeling like I have to create this amazing experience every day for the kids. And the other side is feeling really guilty if I haven't done that. And it's, mother's guilt, parents' guilt. It always seems to be there, but we don't need it to be, because our kids don't constantly need to be entertained. Now, if you are needing to go to work, and I know that there's lots of different scenarios for all of you, and even the ages of your children will determine what you do during your school holidays. So rather than looking at the activities that you could do, let's have a think about, what do you want your children to get out of their school holiday break? And that's a really important question. So what would you like your children to get out of their school holiday break? Now, when you think about it, you look at the school year, and the school year is pretty hectic for kids. And I often see sort of term 1 of a school year, particularly here in Australia, is all about transitioning and allowing the child to sort of settle in, find their groove, connect with their social network, and, just find out what the lay of the land is of the new year. They're learning new skills. Sometimes they've increased the demands, so the year has gotten a little bit harder. And they're just trying to find their way. That's usually sort of term 1 in a nutshell. Term 2 is very much about sort of getting into the routine. And this is where kids will often, it can feel a little bit like the hamster wheel for kids at school in term 2, as much as it does sometimes for teachers as well. But this is where, school sports are usually going, and outside of school sports have all started up, and there's homework, and things can feel a little bit like it's sort of a little bit, you're sort of drudgering along, if that's, I don't even know if that's a word, but, it can feel like you're on a little bit of a hamster wheel, that it's a bit like Groundhog Day every day. And this term being term 2, which is what we have just come out of here in Australia, is term 2 can really feel quite exhausting in a very different way to what term 1 can. Now, term 2, at this time of the year, it's here in Australia, it's winter, so we sort of feel like we need to go in hibernation. But it also is a time of the year, about 6 months in, where the fatigue is starting to sort of set in. We're starting to, kids have had a lot of activity over the year. And if we look at the seasons, particularly here in Australia in winter, it's this beautiful time where we can actually rest and rejuvenate in preparation for spring and summer. Now, I know it sounds probably weird. Hang on, Ange, you're talking about school holidays and now you're talking about seasons. But when you think about it, our bodies naturally go into a space of wanting to, find calm at this time of the year. We want to sit in front of an open fire, or we want to have our hoodies on or our blankets on and sit on the lounge and watch a movie. It's time where we do sort of go a little bit more indoors. Now, whether you love that space, there's all, it's up to you. But sometimes people like to go outside as well. And this is often a time where people might go camping and they'll have the fire on and, all rugged up. And it's a really lovely time of the year where we start to just naturally hibernate a little bit. And this gives us a really good opportunity just to slow things down a little. And because of that natural tendency over the year for things to be really sort of about settling in and finding our way in term 1, and then term 2 is about doing the work, this is a perfect time if you are already feeling energetically flat, or if your child has been getting sick a little bit more often, or if you're noticing that, they're getting quite tired. These current school holidays are a perfect time to allow your children time just to have downtime. To have those days, if they want to, where they're sitting in front of the TV watching Netflix all day. Or it might be that you go out and have a nice, quiet lunch with them. Or it might be let them sleep in that little bit longer in the morning. Because these school holidays, if you look at it, it sort of marks the middle of the year. And it's a time where children can just breathe and press pause. So think about some of those activities that you can do that allow your kids to be able to just stop for a little bit. Now, it doesn't mean that we let our kids sit in front of the TV for 2 weeks and, or on their phones and devices for 2 weeks and do nothing else. But what it does do is it allows, it helps for you guys to think about, well, if they sleep in till 9:30 in the morning and it's school holidays and, there's nothing else on, it's okay that they sleep in. Their bodies might be needing it because during the term, they're up, they're going, they might have training in the morning, trainings in the afternoon, they might have before or after school activities that they need to get to, and things are often at quite a bit of a rush. So during the school holidays, it's an awesome time just to allow them to sleep in a little bit. Even at nighttime, they might want to go to bed a little bit earlier. Having those really nourishing meals as well. So giving them foods like stews or slow cooker meals. I love my slow cooker. All of those things that it might be the pies that you make, or that you go to the store and you buy at the butcher some beautiful pies, or whatever it is that however your family eats, curries. It's those nourishing foods that allow your kids just to slow down. So what I'm encouraging you all to do is look and go, how can I support this moment that's in line with the seasons, particularly here in the Southern Hemisphere, of nourishment, of sort of hibernation, of pressing pause, of just nourishing our soul that little bit. Because our kids, if they are exhausted now, if they're tired, if they're getting more sick than normal, and they go into term 3 after the school holidays and they're still feeling like that, the rest of the year will be a hard slog. They will be trying to push through rather than feeling like they have the reserves. Because let's face it, term 4 is crazy. It's, end of the year, people usually get pretty tired because they don't do the things that we're talking about now and really making the most of school holidays. So other than that hibernation time, don't forget that school holidays are also about maintaining those social connections with their peers in a way that allows them to have fun. Now, having fun is something that, of course, that most kids do really naturally. But there are times too where facilitated fun is important for us parents to do too. And what I mean by facilitated fun, it might be that you take them to the movies depending on the age of your children. Taking them to the movies with their friends, letting them wander around the stores. You might be there. You might go and have a shop while they're in there. You know that they're safe. Or for younger kids and little kids, it might be having their friends over and having a picnic outside if the weather's nice, or allowing them to build those forts or those cubby houses in the house. I do encourage all of you too just to have a think about and to monitor device use over school holidays. Yes, there is a balance, okay? And the balance I will leave up to you, and there's a whole lot of really great resources you can go to. But on this podcast, I have interviewed some really fantastic people, and one is Dr. Christy Goodwin, who talks about device use and what that really means and what conversations we should be having with our kids. So if that's something that interests you, please check out my interview with Dr. Christy Goodwin here on A Kids Life podcast. I'll also link it to the bottom of the show notes of this episode so it's easy for you to find. But what we're looking at over holidays is that opportunity for kids to press pause, to have a break from school. So no homework over the holidays. It's not necessary. It doesn't do anything for the kids. The homework should be left in their school bag. Put their school bag away and let them go and have fun. Let them explore, let them connect with their peers, and let them have downtime. Now, if you're going away on holidays, then that is fantastic, good for you. If you are staying at home, that is also fantastic and good for you. There are plenty of things that you can do. Now, for your kids as well, I mentioned this at the beginning, you don't have to be an activities director for them. It can feel like that. And if it feels like that, then the activities won't be fun. But what you can do is have some days in the holidays where they are planned activities. You know, depending on the age of your child, again, it might be that they're going to school holiday programs. It might be that they love tennis, so they're going to a tennis camp. It might be that they're going to stay with relatives and just chilling with them and having fun with them. School holidays doesn't have to be like this never-ending cycle of paid activities that adds to your stress because school holidays become so expensive trying to entertain your kids. There are lots and lots of opportunities that you can have where it's free, that you're connecting with other people. It might be family, it might be friends, but also look at activities where you don't have to plan anything. So it might be you have days during the school holidays where you do nothing. And it might be come lunch that the kids go, hey, mum or dad, or can I do this? And it might be, yeah, let's go for a walk, or let's go play a board game, depending on the weather. There's lots of different opportunities that you can have just to have no plans that naturally evolve into fun family activities. Now, if you are at work, let's talk about that over the school holidays. I juggle work and spending time with the kids over school holidays. And I know what it's like to sort of try to quieten the kids down in the background while you're doing your work and trying to make sure that the kids are not going to do anything crazy out while you're trying to work, or you might be needing to go to a workplace. I want all of the school holidays for parents to be totally guilt-free. So if you are working, then you are working. But please don't stress yourself out that it's about entertaining your kids as well as needing to go to work. Your kids have resilience. They have good coping skills where you don't need to be with them 24/7. Now, of course, this is age dependent and there's lots of variables. But if we really go back to the basics of what school holidays are really about, and I want you to think about this. School holidays is about giving your kids a break. It's about giving them an opportunity to press pause and to start to find and regain the energy they need to help them thrive in the next term. Now, whatever that looks like for you, your family, and your child, I'll leave that up to you. There are plenty of great things that you can look for online. I've got a free downloadable document too that you could download that's in these show notes, and I'll also share it on my socials at Angela Lockwood on Instagram, and it will also be on Facebook and LinkedIn, all the different socials where you can download with just activity ideas for the school holidays. But what I would like you to think about is if school holidays, particularly these ones, is about pressing pause, re-energizing, and having downtime, what are some of the things that you could do over these holidays with your kids to allow that to happen? Is it a family movie night? One of the nights, you might be coming home from work, you go and get some pizzas from the shop, and you come home and you all chill in front of the TV. It might be that. It might be, could you sleep in on the Saturday morning and just let everyone relax? Everyone can stay in their jammies as long as they need. What does it look like for you? Because what we don't want is school holidays to be a stress for you. It is as much about having the kids have a break and rest and press pause as it is for you. So if you are working, it might be the night times where you're pressing pause and spending time with the kids is the space to do that. Now, if you have any activity ideas, please share it with us in the comments, and make sure that all your different ideas, if you have a cracking idea that you do and you know that the kids loved it, let us know and I'll share it with my audience, because I think parents are so creative. We come up with the best ideas, but don't worry if you haven't got them booked in every single day to something. Don't worry about keeping them entertained every minute, because this is where creativity comes out for kids. When kids can find those downtime moments and the time that isn't scheduled, then that is where we start to see kids go outside again and play in the backyard or come up with different ideas. That, remember that stuff we did when we were kids, when we would have downtime and we would do a concert, or we would play with our teddy bears and dolls and come up with a picnic, or we would come up with creative ideas. And the only way we can also do that is by having time off devices. So devices, school holidays doesn't mean 24/7 access to devices. Put some boundaries around device use over the holidays so that kids can have that downtime, that they can press pause, but then they can also come up with fun, creative ideas, whether they're alone, being with themselves, or whether they've got friends over. Really important to give kids that time where they can just relax, and they can also come up with really fun, creative ideas just like we did. So if you have enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Share it with somebody who you feel might need a very nice suggestion, a soft suggestion about how we can make the most out of our school holidays. But make sure that school holidays, you've got it by now. I've said it a few times. Make sure it is about rest. It is about having downtime. And it's also about building those energy stores so that your child can thrive between now and the end of the year and beyond. Thanks for listening. I'm Angela Lockwood. Please share this episode, and I look forward to talking to you next week about more fun things to do with kids. Good. Thank you for listening to a Kids Life podcast. To stay up to date with all new episodes, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. If you want to know more about the Inclusive Classroom or any of the other programs I provide, please go to angelalockwood.com.au. And until next time, slow down, have fun, and enjoy.